How Realme beat Samsung and Xiaomi at their own game. Realme didn't enter the smartphone market to play safe. They entered to shake the table. At a time when Samsung dominated the premium crowd and Xiaomi ruled the budget segment, Realme quietly spotted a gap no one else was paying attention to. And instead of trying to be another smartphone brand, they built something faster, louder, and far more connected to the youth than any of their rivals. This is the story of how a brand that started as an underdog turned into a disruptor that made giants uncomfortable. A story of speed, community power, and a strategy so sharp that even Samsung and Xiaomi had to rethink their moves. So buckle up, because today we're breaking down how Realme didn't just join the game, they learned the rules, flipped the board, and beat the biggest players at their own game. 7. The birth of a dark horse. Realme began as a small sub-brand under Oppo, but from the very first day, its vision was nothing like a typical newcomer. They weren't dreaming of becoming the biggest smartphone brand overnight. They wanted to become the fastest brand to understand what young users really wanted. And surprisingly, this single mindset set them apart long before anyone noticed. At that time, Samsung was busy managing its massive global empire, moving slow but safe. Xiaomi was fighting a different battle, trying to keep prices low while still offering good quality. In the middle of these two giants, Realme spotted something everyone else missed. A new generation of buyers who didn't care about brand history or fancy marketing. They wanted style without extra cost, performance without compromise, and a phone that matched their personality. Realme understood something crucial. This generation didn't want cheap phones. They wanted affordable phones that felt premium. Not just value, but value with attitude. So instead of copying Xiaomi's pricing or relying on Samsung-level trust, Realme carved out a fresh identity. A brand that delivers flagship-like features, bold designs, fast charging, high refresh rate screens, all wrapped in a phone that actually looks cool in your hand. And this surprisingly simple idea became Realme's secret weapon. Because in a market full of predictable strategies and slow-moving giants, Realme entered as the bold, dark horse that moved fast, listened carefully, and built exactly what young buyers were waiting for, even before they realized it themselves. 6. Realme's secret weapon, speed. Realme didn't try to win with a slow, safe strategy. They didn't try to copy what Samsung or Xiaomi were already doing. Instead, Realme made a bold decision. They fought with speed. Not normal industry speed, but a pace so aggressive that it forced the entire market to pay attention. Samsung followed a comfortable yearly upgrade cycle. Xiaomi pushed updates faster, but still at a rhythm everyone could predict. But Realme? Realme treated the smartphone market like a sprint, not a marathon. They released new models every few months, and sometimes it felt like every few weeks. For most companies, this kind of rapid launch cycle would create confusion, delays, or product overlap. But Realme used it as a weapon, a strategy designed to never give competitors a moment to breathe. Whenever Xiaomi launched a new phone, Realme quickly countered with a model that had just one step better features, a slightly stronger processor, faster charging, a brighter screen, and somehow managed to price it lower. It wasn't accidental, it was calculated. And whenever Samsung tried to strengthen its mid-range lineup, Realme dropped phones with bold designs, smoother displays, and cameras tuned perfectly for social media. Exactly the kind of features younger users cared about. Realme played a relentless counterattack game. If competitors took one step, Realme took two, and they did it instantly. The market couldn't predict their moves because Realme wasn't following the rules. This hyperspeed strategy made the brand feel alive and unstoppable. Every launch brought a sense of excitement, like something new was always around the corner. And for young buyers who love trends and upgrades, this constant momentum made Realme one of the most exciting brands to follow. 5. Understanding Gen Z better than anyone. Samsung built its success on reliability. Xiaomi built its brand on specs and value. But Realme? Realme understood something the others didn't. Young buyers don't just buy a phone, they buy an identity. Realme didn't speak like a corporate brand reading from a script. They spoke like that cool friend who always knows the latest trends. Their phones came in bright colors, bold patterns, and designs that stood out instantly. Even their marketing felt playful, short, punchy, and made for Instagram, not billboards. They specifically targeted the fastest-growing user base in India and Southeast Asia. Students who wanted a stylish upgrade, young professionals who wanted good performance on a budget, first-time smartphone users discovering new apps, and mobile gamers who cared about processors, touch response, and battery life. And here's the smart part. Realme didn't wait for trends. They blended into youth culture early. They collaborated with influencers, gaming streamers, tech YouTubers, and content creators at a time when most brands were still using traditional ads. They showed up in gaming tournaments, campus events, and live streams, not just TV commercials. Realme wasn't selling smartphones. They were selling a vibe. Fast, fun, stylish, and unapologetically youthful. This emotional connection became their biggest advantage. Because once a young buyer felt like Realme got them, they stayed loyal. And in a market where trends change overnight, Realme's ability to stay relatable helped them grow at a speed no one saw coming.
4. Beating Samsung and Xiaomi at their own game.
So the big question is, how did a young brand like Realme manage to challenge two giants who had already dominated the market for years? The answer lies in a strategy that was bold, unpredictable, and surprisingly simple once you break it down. 1. Against Samsung, pricing plus modern features. Samsung's mid-range success relied heavily on its reputation. People trusted the brand, and Samsung knew it. But Realme flipped the script. Instead of asking buyers to pay a premium for the Samsung name, Realme offered flagship-like features at prices that felt almost unbelievable. High refresh rate screens, fast charging that Samsung didn't offer in that segment yet, powerful chipsets, better optimization. Realme made Samsung's mid-range phones look outdated, and young buyers quickly saw the difference. They didn't care about brand legacy, they cared about what they were getting for their money. Realme became the brand that offered more and asked for less. 2. Against Xiaomi, design plus speed. Xiaomi ruled the online market with specs. They built phones that delivered high performance at a low price. But Realme added something Xiaomi often overlooked: style. Realme phones came with gradient backs, eye-catching colors, slimmer profiles, and stylish camera modules that looked premium. They weren't just powerful, they were visually attractive. And with Realme's hyper-fast launch cycle, they always had something newer and flashier coming right after Xiaomi announced a model. Realme didn't just match Xiaomi on specs, they made themselves the more exciting brand to follow. 3. Against both, product variety. Realme also understood that not all buyers want the same thing. So, they created a full product ecosystem. C-Series for budget users, Number Series for mainstream buyers, GT Series for performance lovers, Narzo Series for gamers. This meant every kind of buyer, from a student saving for their first phone to a gamer wanting top performance, could find a Realme device that fit their identity and budget. This multi-layered strategy made Realme feel bigger, faster, and fresher than both Samsung and Xiaomi, allowing them to rise in a market where most brands took years to grow. 3. Building an ecosystem faster than anyone. Realme knew that winning the smartphone battle was only one part of the story. If they wanted to grow like Samsung or challenge Xiaomi's influence, they needed something bigger, an entire ecosystem. But what took Samsung more than a decade to build, Realme tried to compress into just a few years, and surprisingly, it worked. Instead of staying limited to smartphones, Realme rapidly expanded into every device young consumers were starting to use. They entered the audio category with earphones and wireless earbuds right when online classes and mobile gaming were exploding. They pushed into smartwatches as fitness tracking became a trend. And they didn't stop there. They introduced smart TVs, laptops, and even home devices like smart bulbs and plugs. This wasn't just diversification, this was strategy. Realme wanted people to feel that if they bought one Realme product, they could easily pair it with another. A Realme phone worked smoothly with Realme earbuds. Realme watches synced perfectly with Realme apps. Realme TVs and laptops gave a familiar user experience. Suddenly, the brand looked modern, connected, and future-ready. And here's where it became a game-changer. Value-conscious markets like India and Southeast Asia loved this approach. Many buyers wanted a complete tech setup but couldn't afford expensive premium ecosystems like Samsung or Apple. Realme stepped in as the brand that offered smart living without the premium price tag. Students could buy a Realme phone, add Realme Buds, pick up a Realme watch, and even connect to a Realme TV, all without breaking their budget. The brand wasn't just selling devices, it was selling a connected lifestyle. This fast ecosystem expansion made Realme feel much bigger than its actual age. And as more people adopted multiple Realme devices, the brand loyalty grew stronger, creating a network effect that Samsung and Xiaomi took years to build. 2. The real reason for their rise. Realme didn't climb the ranks because they had the most advanced technology or the biggest R&D labs. They rose because they understood something most brands completely overlooked. People don't buy smartphones only for features. They buy what the phone represents. And Realme tapped into that emotion perfectly. Most companies kept talking about megapixels, processors, and benchmarks. Realme talked about speed, confidence, youthfulness, and attitude. They made buyers feel like they were choosing a brand that matched their personality. For a generation that cares about how things look, how fast they feel, and how they fit into their lifestyle, Realme became the natural choice. Realme didn't just sell a device. They sold a sense of being up to date, of not missing out, of being part of something fresh and energetic. When other brands relied on long histories and legacy reputations, Realme built a modern identity from scratch, and they built it fast. Their marketing was youthful, their designs were bold, their pricing was aggressive, and their launch cycles never let the excitement fade. Every new release looked like the start of another trend. Every advertisement spoke directly to young buyers instead of talking above them. And that's the real reason behind their rise. Realme engineered an ecosystem, a product lineup, and a marketing voice that all pointed toward one thing: capturing the energy of the new generation. They didn't want to be the best brand. They wanted to be the brand that felt alive, the brand that felt like the future. Their growth wasn't luck. It wasn't timing. It was a carefully crafted strategy built on understanding what modern consumers truly value: speed, style, identity, and excitement. 1. Their secret weapon: community power. One of the most underrated reasons behind Realme's explosive rise is something Samsung and Xiaomi took years to understand: the power of community. Realme didn't just try to sell devices. They built a tribe of young, energetic fans who felt personally connected to the brand's journey. They launched the Realme Community app, which wasn't just a forum. It became a hangout spot where fans shared ideas, leaks, unboxings, and even problems that Realme solved publicly. Then came the fan festivals, offline meets, live streams, and product teasers that dropped like surprises, all designed to keep people excited and involved. And here's the clever part: Realme didn't just listen, they acted on feedback. Fans influenced everything from phone colors to UI features to the feel of the camera interface. It made people feel like they weren't just buying a Realme phone, they were contributing to it. While Samsung was refining premium features and Xiaomi was perfecting value-driven specs, Realme focused on something far deeper: belonging. In fast-growing markets where young buyers want identity as much as gadgets, this sense of belonging became a massive advantage. This community-first strategy didn't just help Realme sell millions of devices. It created loyalty, the one thing no competitor can copy with money. So Realme didn't just compete with Samsung and Xiaomi. They outplayed them by understanding the market better than the giants themselves. But what if I told you this strategy wasn't unique to smartphones? Right now on your screen is the story of Hisense, a brand that quietly went from a local TV maker to challenging Samsung, Sony, and TCL on the global stage. The moves they made were calculated, bold, and honestly, unexpected. If you enjoyed how Realme beat the giants, you'll be shocked by Hisense's master plan. Click here. This story is even bigger.